Hey, good evening. Happy Tuesday, everyone. So, yeah, pardon the dogs. Ang ingay nila, no? Yeah, wait lang. Ayun. I hope may wala ka narinig na kung ano-ano. Diba? So, yeah, for tonight, we're gonna go and talk about um, the creepy things that physicians do. So, serial killer physicians. Yeah, I prepared a couple of things for you guys. So, meron tayong, I think, 5 or 15 na taong pag-uusapan. And these are serial killers who basically killed while they're doing their practice as physicians. So this is actually the dark side of medicine. Doctors who became serial killers. Um, Actually, do they make the best serial killers amongst? So yeah, we'll proceed with that later. Parang may narinig ako hindi maganda na ano, parang background. Pero anyway, Let's add some music for you guys. How's everyone's weekends? Like long weekends? Kami, we've gone through, tawag dyan, punta kami ng north. We were affected by the traffic. Yung solid traffic dyan sa NLEX. Like the usual travel time from, um, ano tawag dyan, from, what you call this? From NLEX, from, ano tawag dyan? Subic area. It's just 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Ngayon, inabot kami 4 or 6 hours. Umalis kami ng alas 3, dumalik kami ng 6. So again, for tonight's episode, we're going to talk about the dark side of medicine. You know, the doctors who became serial killers. Maybe they can, be the best serial killers kasi nandyan na yung gamit nila. I mean, nandyan na lahat eh. Nasa kanila lahat ng kailangan. And, alam mo yun, doctors have expert knowledge of the frailties of the human body, so they have access to any number of deadly instruments and poisonous medicines. And some have egos that are fed by their feelings or of power of you know over life and death. So actually, fortunately, most doctors have the greatest level of compassion and the strongest desire to cure and not kill. Diba? I have a couple of friends who are doctors, and my cousin is actually a doctor. Shout out to you, Priyan, my cousin. She's a doctor, and she has desire to cure, of course, not to kill. But in any, there's always a bad apple or two. Na hindi naman lahat ng tao mabait eh. I mean, there are people who are, you know, parang pagsasamantalahan or gagamitin nila ng gusto yung kaalaman nila or yung knowledge nila for something na maka-take advantage. And these people, meron akong mga na-research na mga tao that they, instead of cure, they kill. Diba? Hardcore eh. So yun. You know, murder is a calling even stronger than medicine. I don't know. Meron nga ako nabasa. He's a serial killer. His name is H.H. Holmes. I was born with the devil in me. Shit, diba? Parang you imagine you being a doctor tapos or you're doing a profession tapos ganun yung iniisip mo. So he said, quotes, I could not help the fact that I was a murderer. No more than the poet can help the inspiration to sing. Ayun. So let's talk about the very first serial killer on the list. As I mentioned, si H.H. Holmes. He's one of the America's first serial killers. His real name is Herman Mudgett, better known as Dr. H.H. Holmes. He was born in New Hampshire in 1861. At a young age, he showed an interest in medicine before performing surgery on animals. Doon naman usually nagsisimula, di ba? Animal muna. Sabi nga nila, if you want to go ahead and kill someone, start with an animal. And, it will get the things out of you. Pero I don't believe those things. Diba? Grabe naman. So, as a medical student at the University of Michigan, he stole corpses, yung mga cadavers from the medical school, and used them to make fraudulent insurance claims. He may have experimented on the bodies as well. Parang, alam mo yun, kinuha niya to, and then all of a sudden, pinag-practicean niya. And what's worst is, he experimented on them, and he claimed insurance claims out of it. Kumbaga, kumuha pa siya ng insurance eh, di ba? Parang, namatay ito, and kamag-anak niya kunwari. So, yun. By 1885, he moved to Chicago, Illinois, and got a job at a pharmacy. In fear of being exposed by victims of his previous scams, Mudgett took up the alias Dr. Henry H. Holmes. So basically, kaya siya tinawag na Dr. H.H. Holmes. And eventually took over the pharmacy after purportedly murdering the original owner and the owner's wife. Hardcore, no? Para magkaroon siya ng sarili niyang pharmacy. Pinatay niya yung may-ari at yung asawa ng may-ari in order for him to get the the whole business. I'm not sure why people, how people can do these things to people, like in order for you to get something, pucha, papatay ka, di ba? There are just people who are bad, I guess. There are people who masamang elemento. So yun. Actually, while living in Chicago, Dr. Holmes or Dr. H. Holmes built a house specifically designed for murder with secret passages, trapdoors, soundproof rooms, locked doors, and gas jets to suffocate his victims. He had a kiln in the basement to incinerate the bodies. Kiln, not kiln. Though he sold some of the cadavers to local medical schools. Pagkapatay niya, bebenta niya. Hardcore, man. During the World's Columbian exhibition in Chicago in 1893, Dr. Holmes lured his female victims from the fairgrounds to his murder castle, which is, yung na-build dun. He would seduce them with promise of marriage, then steal their life savings, and finally kill them in his house of horrors. When he was eventually caught in 1894 and sentenced to death, he confessed to 27 murders. Although, the experts believe he may have killed as many as 200 people. Nun, chong. In 1896, Dr. H. Holmes was hanged for his crimes and his murder castle was bought and repurposed as a tourist attraction. Sobrang, ikaw ba, people, if you're gonna go ahead and have this, or the place of Dr. H. Holmes, would you go there? Ako siguro, ano, full photo, tapos video. Tignan ko kung marami talaga tao doon. Imagine 27 people were murdered here at this place. Pero, parang solid, no? Dami multo. So, yun. Yeah, that's his, he's the number one on my list. The number one name on the list that I researched. His story was immortalized in the best-selling book. Ito guys, may best-selling book to. The Devil in the White City, a saga of magic and murder, the fair that changed America. It's written by Eric Larson, which is now the works as a Hulu series produced by Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese. It's a fun fact. Imagine, nagtayo pa siya ng murder house niya for it. And he will basically kill people inside that murder house. Para solid, diba? Pero yun. Just give me a sec. Ayun, sorry. We're experiencing technical difficulties earlier. So the next person on my list is Michael Swango. He's from Ohio State University. Um, his complete name is Joseph Michael Swango. Swango, MD. Graduated summa cum laude from college in 1979. He fatally poisoned as many as 60 patients and colleagues between 1981 and 1997, and is now a supermax prison, serving 3 consecutive life terms without parole. Diyos ko, tatlong buhay niya yung kapalit nung pinatay niya. 60 patients he killed 60 patients from 1981, between 1981 and 1997. During his surgical internship at Ohio State University Medical Center, nurses took notice that a rising number of apparently healthy patients were dying suddenly. God. He keeps on poisoning people. Alam mo yung mga naka-admit na sila, where they were already admitted inside the hospital. Nilalason ni Swango. Jesus. So they reported their concerns to administrators after cursory investigation. However, Dr. Swango was cleared of any culpability in 1984. After his internship ended, he got a job as an EMT but was arrested when several of his co-workers became violently ill due to poisoning. Apparently, he spiked their coffees with arsenic and was sent to prison for 5 years. Lalason. Nilalagay sa coffee. Kulit nun, no? Parang paggalit ka dun sa tao, you'll, you know, you'll definitely kill them. After his release, he eventually found work at the VA hospital in New York State. But as before, patient began to die mysteriously. When the VA hospital discovered that he had lied on his application and that he had a poisoning conviction, he was immediately fired. And the FBI had him on its radar. So parang ano mo yun, binantayan na siya maigi siguro. Yan. So he fled country to Zimbabwe in 1994, where he used forged documents to get a job at a mission hospital. Once again, his patients were dying under suspicious circumstances. In 1997, on a layover in Chicago, federal authorities arrested him for fraud. Convinced Dr. Swango was also a serial killer, investigators exhumed the bodies of three of his patients. All were found to have poisonous chemicals in them. Both US and Zimbabwe authorities charged him with multiple murders. He went on trial in the United States, during which prosecutors read experts from his notebook in which he described the joy he took in his crimes. Faced with the possibility of death penalty in both countries, he actually pled guilty out of it. Pucha, imaginein mo, sinulat pa niya, nag-diary pa siya out of that. Out of those things that he've done for these patients of his. Nag-diary ka, na sinulat mo, paano mo pinatay? How did you kill these people? How did you turn out to kill? Paano niya pinoison? Siguro, ano yun eh. Dun niya, alam mo yun, dun nalaman ng authorities kung paano niya pinatay itong mga tao na to. Sinulat niya. He poisoned them. Pero he pled guilty naman siguro. And it's written, he pled guilty. That's number 2 on the list. His name is Joseph Michael Swango. He's an MD. And actually, summa cum laude. Smart people are dangerous. I don't want to be smart. Ayoko na maging matalino kung delikado lang pala tayo. Alam mo yun. Pero solid din. Solid din. I mean, alam mo yun. Sobrang talino niya, pumatay siya. And he outsmarted, feds and police and government. Solid din. Alright, next on my list, Harold Shipman. Everyone knows England's most famous serial killer, the Jack the Ripper. But Dr. Harold Shipman ranks as Britain's most prolific serial killer, having murdered an estimated 250 people. These guys are sick, guys. Dr. Shipman was a general practitioner in England who was well liked by his patients. But between 1975 and 1998, Dr. Shipman is known to have murdered at least 215 patients, most of whom were older women. He overdosed them with lethal injections of heroin, and he himself had a dependence on painkillers. According to court reports, he altered patients' records to cover his murders. He also stole jewelry from his patients and either forged their wills or had them sign over their estimates to him. He received multiple life sentences for his heinous crimes and hanged himself in his prison cell in 2004. God, these people. It's the easiest way to stole money, guys. Be a doctor, kill your patients. But I'm not, ako, hindi ko inaano to, um, hindi ko to ine-empower for my listeners, for my subscribers, to my followers. Never. It's one of the 10 commandments. Never kill. Thou shalt not kill. Right? But these people are crazy, guys. So the topic for tonight, again, the dark side of medicine, the doctors who became serial killers. I prepared a couple for you guys. So again, this is a podcast live recording. We're on YouTube and Facebook. Please do follow our Facebook page, facebook.com/at or slash Yo Podcast PH. And subscribe to our channel. Yung mga nandiyan na sa Facebook namin, please subscribe to our channel as well. We're in YouTube. YouTube.com/@ Yo Podcast PH. So, ayun, let's continue. The number 3 on the list is Harold Shipman. He drugged people, 215 patients ang napatay niya. God, these people are crazy. 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 So number 4 in the list, John Bodkin Adams. Dr. John Bodkin Adams, another British doctor, may have been the role model of Dr. Harold Shipman's killing spree. Idol no? May ganun talaga nag-idolize yung mga tao. So between 1946 and 56, more than 160 of his patients died suspicious deaths, 132 of whom had put Dr. Adams in their wills before passing away. Imagine that. He writes up the last will of and testament of his patients to get their money, to get their life work. Crazy. So he was never found guilty of that crime, actually, although he was tried for the murder of one patient in 1957. Pero hindi siya nakalusot siya dun. So the question still remains whether he had murdered his elderly victims or had taken it upon himself to euthanize them. It's euthanasia, FYI. Euthanasia is killing someone or a life by sacrificing, or yung tinatawag na mercy killing. One of my dogs, Happy, he's my beagle. He was euthanized, and sakit sa loob nun. Imagine. So, ayun. He euthanized them, but Dr. Adams was no saint. A later trial found him guilty of 13 offenses, including prescription fraud, lying on cremation forms, and obstructing a police search, and failing to keep a dangerous drug registration. He was stripped of his license, although it was later reinstated. He continued practicing medicine until he died of natural causes in 1983. I was not even born on that day. Pero, history is history. It's written. Dark Side of Medicines. And that's number 4, Dr. John Bodkin Adams. So number 5 on the list, Linda Burfield Hazard. The name itself, Hazard. If you're gonna Google her, creepy face. Really, really creepy face. Pero yun. Although trained as an osteopathic nurse, Dr. Linda Burfield Hazard had no medical degree. Just like the very first person we've talked about. Dr. H.H. Holmes, he doesn't have medical degree. But a legal loophole in the state of Washington allowed her to obtain a license to practice medicine, which to her meant starving patients to death. This. She's crazy. She's crazy. She starved people to death and, make a profit out of it. Ano nakain itong mga to, no? Order for them to kill. Kaya ko pumatay, ipis. Yun lang, hanggang ng level lang. Pero the rest, wala na. Hindi ko kaya. So, she wrote a book in 1908, Fasting for the Cure of Disease, in which she asserted that minimal food consumption was the key to recovery from a range of illness, and also opened a sanitarium in Eulalia, Washington, where patients fasted days or weeks, surviving or not on a diet of mere spoonfuls of vegetable broth or juice. Many patients praised her abilities, though more than 40 of them died. In 1912, Dr. Hazard was convicted of manslaughter for the death of a rich British woman who weighed less than 50 pounds when she died. During the trial, prosecutors revealed that Dr. Hazard had forged the patient's will and had taken her jewelry and other valuables. Same story. Papatay, nanakawin yung gamit or yung yaman. Dr. Hazard was sentenced up to 20 years of hard labor in prison, but ended up serving only 2 years. In 1920, she returned to Eulalia, where she opened another sanitarium. and continued her therapy of fasting until the institute burned to the ground in 1935. Falling ill in 1938, she took a dose of her own medicine, fasting, and died of starvation. Yes, actually, doctors do excel in many things. And one of them is actually murder. Magkaroon ka ba naman ng access on, dangerous drugs, you'll be able to, to make people or your patients believe that this is your cure. Let's say, for example, the latest patients, nagtatayo siya ng sanctuary niyo and, you know, sinasabihin niya yung mga patients niya na, oh, ito, gawin mo para gumaling ka. Actually, I have nothing against doctors. I have a lot of friends, as mentioned. I have a lot of friends who are doctors. My cousin is a doctor. Even my nephew is taking medicine. And yun lang, gateway siya sa pinakamadaling murder and pinakamadaling scam of all. So, yun. That's number 5 on the list. She's number 5, Dr. Hazard. And for people who just tune in, this is the dark side of medicine. The doctors who became serial killers. So this is a podcast live recording for Yo Podcast for this Tuesday, April 11. So you guys can go ahead and follow our stream through Facebook and YouTube. And of course, we are in Buzzsprout for our podcast or downloadable audio content of podcast. And I just want to go ahead and give a lot of shout outs for tonight. For your coffee needs, follow 1571 Turf Coffee through Facebook or visit them at Flores Building Magallanes Street in Intramuros, Manila. And you can go ahead and visit Hungry Daddy at 521 Keiko Street, Sampaloc, Manila, near National University. And for your guitar needs, please do follow facebook.com/fretmojo. And for neon signages and lights, please do follow facebook.com/mnl.neon signages. And that's who made our Yo Podcast logo on my back. For audio only, of course, you won't be able to see this, but they made me a big, hindi naman malaki, hindi siya ganun kalaki yan, pero it's a signage, a neon signage and light, which is to get it on my back. For audio, again, audio subscribers, you won't be able to see that, unfortunately. So you go ahead and follow me on Facebook, facebook.com/YoPodcastPH, in order for you to see the live recorded video of this podcast series. So yeah, we're already done on top 5 on the list. So I'll be on break. You can go ahead and tune in still. I'll be on break. Just listen to the background music for now. And I'll see you after 5 minutes, guys. And we're back, people. Sorry, that was just a quick break. And for audio people or all the audio only listeners, ano to wala tong break na to. Hindi nyo maririnig to. Those were edited versions already. So, ayun. So, going back on the topic, it's physicians who became serial killers. And we're already done with our first five list. Now, we're gonna proceed with another five of those top 10 serial killers or serial killers, physicians who became serial killers. So, all right. So, what do you actually, guys, what do you call a surgeon who botches 33 of 38 surgeries? Si Dr. Death. Diba? Parang grabe tong episode natin na to. This is really, magki-cringe kayo. Okay, actually, ako nagki-cringe ako while I'm reading the research document that I've done. Nakaka-cringe. Kasi, syempre, di ba, these are physicians. And it's their profession. It's a gateway for them to, or easy gateway for them to kill people. Again, guys, I'm not empowering murder. I'm not empowering darkness here and Yo Podcast PH. But of course, sinasabi ko lang. We're just having a discussion, or this is actually the discussion point on our Yo Podcast PH Tuesday live recording. So, American neurosurgeon Christopher Dunch, she's the number 6 on the list, was barely a doctor. He completed his residency with a fewer than 100 surgeries, a tenth of what's typical, and spent a portion of his training in a program for impaired physicians, thanks to his fondness for cocaine. Huh, a drug addict, a physician at the same time. So Dunch was hired by Baylor Regional Medical Center at Plano, Texas, and immediately began doing harm. His very first surgery patient was left partially paralyzed, and subsequent patients were equally disabled or maimed by his incompetence and carelessness. In all, Dunch was accused of injuring 33 of 38 surgery patients over 2 years. But Dr. Death, again, si Dunch, didn't just maim, he killed. So, when Dunch performed a vertebrae fusion on longtime friend Jerry Summers in 2011, he botched the surgery so badly that the patient lost the use of his limbs. Summers remained a quadriplegic until 2021, when he died from an infection related to complications from the operation. In 2012, Kelly Martin went to Dunch for what should have been a 45-minute minimally invasive procedure to relieve back pain. Martin lost a massive amount of blood and went into cardiac arrest during what turned out to be a 3-hour surgery. She later bled death in the ICU. Imagine mo yun, no? 45 minutes lang naging 3-hour surgery. So Martin's operation was the first time surgery tech Anson Fulton worked with Dunch. When he walked in the room, I don't know if you've ever been in the presence of a sociopath, but it's a very ominous feeling, Fulton said. The vibe he gave me was just not good. It was very dark, and it wasn't a good feeling. The Dallas hospital, Dunch killed Fluella Brown by severing her vertebral artery and causing a massive stroke that left her brain dead. She was removed from life support after a few days. Around the same time, he performed an elective procedure on a 74-year-old Mary Efford that left her paralyzed. Bunch left a trail injured patients at Fillmore hospitals in 2013 when a fellow surgeon who'd been tasked with repairing Dunch's damage complained to the Texas Medical Board. Dr. Dunch's license was revoked. Civil lawsuits were filed. And in 2015, Dunch was arrested on criminal charges that showed in text 6 felony counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, 5 counts of aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury, and 1 count of injury to an elder person who is effort, In 2017, Dunch was found guilty of intentionally maiming effort and sentenced to life in prison. Solid. So that's Dr. Neurosurgeon Christopher Dunch. God. Okay, number 7 on the list. So, long before Gwyneth Paltrow made fasting fashionable. Alam niyo yung movie na yun? Um, ano yun? Yung Shallow Hal. So, si Dr. quote-unquote, Linda Hazard was licensed to practice a fasting specialist. She's already discussed. So, she's the number 5 on the list. Sorry, na-double pa siya. Ito. The number 7 on the list, sorry. Number 7 on the list, the grand jury report regarding Kermit Gosnell read, this case is about a doctor who killed babies and endangered women. What we mean is that he regularly and illegally delivered live, viable babies in the third trimester of pregnancy, and then murdered these newborns by severing their spinal cords with scissors. Gosnell called it inserting fetal beneath. God, I'm having cringe. Seriously. Ang ina, di ba? My God. Ayun. Gosnell had been performing illegal late-term abortions since the 1970s. Then, in 2011, a drug raid of his Philadelphia clinic uncovered the remains of fetuses and babies. Infant body parts were found in cabinets, refrigerators, and even garbage disposal. The grand jury reported added that Gosnell's lucrative practice was a filthy fraud in which he overdosed his patients with dangerous drugs, spread venereal disease among them with infected instruments, perforated their wombs and bowels, and on the least 2 occasions caused their deaths. One of these deaths was that of a named Karnamaya Munger, 41 years old, who went to Gosnell for abortion and died from an overdose of Demerol he administered. Her 19-week fetus was later discovered intact in a freezer at the clinic. In 2013, Gosnell was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder of babies, hundreds of lesser abortion violations, and 1 count of involuntary manslaughter for Munger's death. She's the number 7 on the list. Guys, physicians, they're crazy. Again, I have nothing about physicians or doctors. I have friends who are doctors. I have a cousin who's a doctor. And I'm not empowering people to kill. And this is just for discussion, creepy serial physician killers or doctors who became physician or doctors or physicians who became killers. Really hardcore. Um Number 8 on the list, Harold Shipman. Oh, sorry. Pag-usapan na pala natin to. Okay. Number 8, Dr. William Hustle. Oh, no. This was, nag-overdose. Ito yung nag-overdose di ba? Si William Hustle. Si Dr. H. Holmes, he was already discussed. John Bodkin Adams was already discussed. Ito, si number 8, sorry, Leonardo Cazzaniga, Italy's diabolical lover doctor. You guys ready? Number 8 on the list. In April 2021, a Milan court upheld the prison sentences of a convicted emergency room doctor and his nurse lover. Leonardo Cazzaniga, who is 65, was convicted of killing 10 people and acquitted of 3 other murders and sentenced to life in prison. His mistress, Laura Toroni, was sentenced to 30 years of murdering 2 members of her family, dubbed the diabolical lovers by the Italian press. The lovers have been incarcerated since 2016. So nakakulong pa pala itong mga ito. Because Zaniga was found guilty of the voluntary manslaughter of 8 patients in the Sarono Hospital. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Sorry. Nasaan tayo? Sarono Hospital. Lagi na wala ako yung binabasa ko. Ayun. Sorono Hospital. So prosecutors said the doctor killed in a delirium of omnipotence by administering overdoses of anesthetic and sedative drugs to his patients. God, alam mo yun, meron sila kasing ano eh, alam mo yun, meron silang access to dangerous drugs. They have access for, you know, to mga kayang pumatay na mga drugs like anesthetics. Alam mo anesthetics pag yan tinurok sa'yo, um, if you overdose anesthetics, definitely you'll feel numb tapos eventually you'll die. Pero to si Kazanega, di ba? So, sinasaksakan niya ng anesthetics and sedative drugs to his patients. God. Police had investigated 40 deaths between 2011 and 2014. That aligns with Kazanega's work shift. So, during his shift, doon siya pumapatay ng mga tao. Doon siya, nagsasaksak siya ng anesthetics and sedate them. And eventually, these people will die. So, 40 of them between 2011 and 2014. Imagine, that was, in a percentage, sorry, I'm bad with math. People, you can go in and help me out with this. So, defense attorneys argued that the practice were consistent with standard palliative care. But the prosecution pointed out that one of the victims had died after being admitted with nothing more than a dislocated shoulder. So, just go. Sinaksakan niya ng matinding morphine, matinding anesthetics yung tao. Dislocated shoulder lang. Imagine ako, nagkaroon ako ng dislocated shoulder. Pag ito pala naging doktor ko, patay na ako ngayon. Diba? So, the doctor was also convicted of killing his nurse lover's father-in-law and acting in conjunction with her to kill her husband. Taroni, a 44-year-old mother of two, was found guilty of murdering her husband and her own mother. From time to time, I want to kill someone. I need it. Quotes. She said it in a police wiretap. Taroni convicted her husband that he had diabetes and administered lethal doses of insulin to him. Further appeals by the couple are anticipated. So, marami pa pala. They're alive. They're still incarcerated since 2016. Okay. So, number 9 on the list. This is a Japanese physician. So-called physician. Quote-unquote doctor. Shiro Ishii. The germ warfare enthusiast. So during World War II, the United States and the Great Britain tested biological weapons on animal subjects. But Japanese medical officer Shiro Ishii was not restrained by ethics. He used humans to test some of nature's deadliest pathogens. Guys, remember COVID-19? NCOV. This is conspiracy theory that COVID-19 was a made drug or a drug that was on the loose na incorrect or loose drug siya. And just maybe, conspiracy theory, COVID-19 was a made drug. And isa siya sa mga maling timpla. And then it was administered to one of the patients and all of a sudden started the virus. It's a conspiracy theory. We're just talking about it, right? So Ishii, during World War II, administered these drugs or pathogens to people. So Ishii became a doctor in 1920 and in 1921 was commissioned into the Imperial Japanese Army as a military surgeon. When the 1925 Geneva Protocol banned the use of biological and chemical weapons in the war, Ishii urged the Japanese Army to develop them. So noon pa pala may biological weapons na. Now, talking about COVID-19, this is conspiracy, ha? This may be a biological weapon. Conspiracy theory. I don't know if you agree. You guys can comment on this. So, when 1925, again, the Geneva Protocol banned the use of biological and chemical weapons in the war, So si Ishii, he pushed through to use this for development of the army. He traveled through the US and Europe to research the biological and chemical warfare developments that followed World War One. So noon pa pala, diba? World War One pa lang, World War Two, meron na. So in 1936, Ishii was given formal control over Unit 731 in China. The unit was intended for research that would benefit Japanese soldiers, such as learning how the human body withstands hunger and thirst and fights diseases. Early experiments were conducted on consenting volunteers, but the methods changed under Ishii's purview. A doctor's God given mission was to block and treat disease, he said, but the work he took on was, quotes, the complete opposite of these principles, unquote. So in this research facility, Ishii and his men performed experiments on live humans. Chinese prisoners and Allied POWs, or prisoners of wars, were used as a guinea pigs, forced to breathe, eat, and receive injections of deadly pathogens. Anthrax, yeah, anthrax is, it's a biochemical weapon. Gas gangrene, smallpox, typhoid, cholera, plague, botulism, and dysentery bacteria is one of them. Or one of among them. Yun yung mga ginagamit. Smallpox, ginagamit nila. It's a biological weapon. Nakakamatay daw yun eh. So, definitely, people who are into war, they'll use that. So, the researchers induced frostbite and pregnancies and conducted vivisections without anesthesia. It is estimated that more than 10,000 people died during these experiments. Jesus, this doctors, these physicians are crazy. When the war ended, Ishii faked his own death and went into hiding. He was found by American forces and offered to reveal the results of his program in exchange for immunity from war crimes prosecution. The Americans accepted the offer but found little value among Ishii's records, so biological weapons were not mentioned in the Japanese war crime trials, and Ishii died free as a free man in 1959. How can these people sleep at night? Right, number 10 on the list. Diba? So, number 10 on the list, in vivo, Joseph Mengele. Twins obsessed Nazi physician. Guys, this is a German physician, crazy physician, crazy doctors. Again, for people who just tune in, we're talking about physicians who became killers and use their expertise to kill people. Again, we are not empowering or hindi tayo nagtutulak ng kahit anong kasamaan dito sa Yo Podcast. We're just talking and nag-uusap-usap lang tayo about what can we actually discuss. Yeah. So, big shout outs 1571 Coffee, Hungry Daddy, Neon Lights and Signages. And this is our Tuesday podcast series. Again, this is the physicians who became criminals or manslaughters. All right, so number 10 on the list. So before this guy became a Nazi physician, Joseph Mengele, with doctorate degree in physical anthropology and genetic medicine, worked as a legitimate research assistant studying twins at the Institute of Hereditary Biology and Racial Hygiene. But Mengele fully embraced the nationalist, racist, and anti-Semitic views of the Nazi Party and aimed to utilize his skills and training to that end. So ginamit niya na to. Ginamit niya yung knowledge niya. So Mengele joined the Nazi Party in 1937 and earned his medical degree in 1938. And in 1940, he was drafted into the army with the Nazi army, where he volunteered for the medical services of the armed SS or Nazis. Right. So by the end of 1943, SS Captain Mengele became the chief camp physician at Auschwitz II or Birkenau in Germany. He and about 30 other physicians made regular selections rounds on the ramp to determine which Incoming prisoners will be retained for work and which would immediately perish in the gas chambers. Nice. Gas chambers. Gas chamber stories. The Nazi gas chamber stories. These are badass. Miguel's brutal demeanor in this role earned him the title Angel of Death. So this the number 10 on the list, the Angel of Death. Mengele even appeared in the selection area while off duty, always searching for twins and individuals with remarkable physical attributes, dwarfism, heterochromia, alam mo, may mga special needs, to use for medical research. He was free to conduct research as he desired, performing agonizing and often lethal experiments with Jewish and Romans, the Gypsies twins. Most of them are actually children. Actually, about 3,000 twins, most of them were children, Mengele's children, quote unquote, were pulled off from the ramp. They endured daily blood draws and mass transfusions. Mengele injected harmful chemicals into their eyes to fabricate blue eye color. He would inject one twin with disease and kill the other to perform side by side post mortem examinations. Creepy. Mengele administered spinal taps, castration, organ removal, and amputation without anesthesia. Only about 200 of those twins survived. So imagine about 3,000. It's 98%, guys. 98% were murdered. So Mengele was never arrested for his war crimes. He fled and evaded capture for the next 34 years in 1985. The German police located his grave in South America and exhumed his corpse. God, imagine that the guy is already dead. So, binuksan pa yung grave niya in order for people or for the government to know if he's still alive or not because of his Hindu's crimes of killing twins in World War II. Pre-World War II and post-World War II. I guess, alam mo yan, pagkatapos ng World War II, nandun pa rin siya, di ba? He still survives, he still kill people, he's still doing the research. Sabi nga nila, what you love most, you'll do the most. And this 10 people, or doctors or physicians who became serial killers, we discussed, they love it. And I'm not sure why. You know, it's giving me cringe right now. I'm cringed. Like, God. I really cannot imagine that this was discussed. I'm sorry, guys. But, you know, sabi ko nga, we were gonna go ahead and talk about conspiracy theories, history. You know, may mga nagre-request na we talk about cult members, cult cultures. Last episode, we talked about, you know, scariest places to be in the world in 2023. And now we talked about the top 10 serial killers, physicians who became serial killers. So yeah, that actually concludes the list of our, you know, tonight's episode. I just want to go ahead and invite you guys over to our Facebook channel, facebook.com/YoPodcastPH, and to our YouTube channel to get more updates on the latest podcast at youtube.com/@YoPodcastPH. And you can go in and follow 1571 Surf Coffee through Facebook or visit them at Flores Building, Magallanes Street in Intramuros, Manila. And if you guys are hungry, please do visit Hungry Daddy at 521 Keiko Street, Sampaloc, Manila. It's not near National University. And for your guitar needs, please do follow facebook.com/fretmojo. And for neon signages and lights, please do follow facebook.com/manila.mnl.neonsignages. And you'll be able to get the signage that I have. So that concludes our episode for tonight. I just want to go ahead and give a quick reminder. We're gonna have our episode tomorrow, a special guest tomorrow, with Skunk Desur will be airing at 8 o'clock, 8 to 8, between 8 p.m. to 8:30. So Skunk Desur is a reggae band, a local reggae band here in in Cavite. They also play in Manila. Recently, I think they have a gig in Batangas. So these guys are actually good, solid to. So a big shout out to my friends, PJ Abad, to for signing up for that specific episode. And on Friday, that will be Crown of Thorns PH We'll have Brian Ramos and the rest of the crew join us here in Yo Podcast PH. And you guys will touch base more. You'll hear more stories. Marami ako nakapila. Eto, ibabasahin ko na sa inyo. I'll spill the beans, guys, of what I have on my plates. Wait lang. Ito. So by request, we have to discuss, or we'll be discussing the scariest cult stories of all times. So cult culture. We have requests on haunted mansions, haunted areas, or haunted places in the world. Um, the funniest real events in the history. So we've talked about cartels last Monday or Thursday, sorry, Monday, Thursday. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about the most famous drug cartels in the world. That's gonna be followed by the top, of course, bawi tayo sa mga scariest places on earth to go this 2023. And bawiin naman natin siya sa top places to be, a destination to be this 2023. Travel destinations. So followed by amazing moments of the 20th century. This is actually good. So 25, or the scariest world events that might have ended life here on Earth that you might have known, pero discuss natin yan. So, and the most mind-boggling natural phenomenon on Earth. And of course, we're gonna continue again with the serial killers. The name of serial killers and what did they do? What are their heinous crimes that they've done? So again, this is Yo Podcast PH, serial killers or physicians who became serial killers. And I hope you guys have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your night. And I'll see you guys tomorrow with our live podcast recording with our guest, Skank Desur. Have a good night, everyone.